A long time ago in the Amazon, there was a great tree, a miraculous tree able to cure you of any disease or curse, just by using one of its petals. This tree was known as the Tears of the Moon, so for many centuries, many expeditions went in search of it, but none of those expeditions was as greedy and famous as that of Don Lope de Aguirre, who was determined at all costs to obtain the power of the Tears of the Moon. But the jungle protected the tears and he was wounded. But he was found by the guardians of the tree, a tribe, and they healed him with its petals, but he demanded from the leader the arrowhead, the key that would unlock the power of the tree. But as the chief of the tribe refused, Aguirre attacked them. Then the jungle took him and his companions, took them away cursed, bewitched, so that they could never escape from the place, otherwise they would die. All this is a legend told by MacGregor Houghton. Here we see his sister listening to him. Both are interested in finding these miraculous tears, so MacGregor tries to convince the leaders of the area, telling them that if they would help him find the tree he would be able to cure any disease, and asks them to let him access the confidential files of previous expeditions. But the leaders give him a resounding no. So while he tries to convince them, his sister infiltrates through the facilities of the place to look for confidential files. She gets to where these objects are and with much ingenuity finds a file. She opens the trunk and finds the arrowhead, which would be the key to access the great miraculous tree and get the Tears of the Moon. Here we meet the Prince Joachim, who made numerous donations of gold to the leaders of this city. In return, he came to take the arrowhead, the key to the trunk, to make his own expedition in search of the tree, but when he finds it was gone. But at this moment they realize the presence of Lily and try to catch her, but she very agile used a ladder to escape, but she falls through the window. Here Prince Joachim offers to help her, but in return she wants the chest. She gives it to him, but Joachim pushes the stairs, but she falls on a truck and manages to escape with her brother, while Joachim opens the chest and finds a toy bird. We are with MacGregor and Lily. She is commenting that she is going to start her expedition, but her brother does not want to, because he is afraid. She tells him that, whether he accompanies her or not, he will go anyway, because now as he has just stolen the arrowhead, he can access all the power of the tree, and manages to convince his brother. Here we meet Frank, the Rock, who here is a super trained sailor. Well, the truth is not that he is so trained, but he scares all his passengers, with animals, with tribes of savages, but everything is a show put on by him. Frank receives a visit from Mr. Nile, who comes to collect what he lent him for his boat. It happens that this old man owned all the boats. Here comes Lily with MacGregor in search of Nilo to give them a boat to start their expedition. Meanwhile, Frank goes to infiltrate the offices of Mr. Nilo to recover some of the money he just took. But when he is looking for Lily arrives and knocks on the door. She talks to Frank thinking it is Nilo. She tells him that she will pay him very well, so Frank opens and they begin to negotiate. She tells him that she wants to go to Crystal Terrace, that would be the place where the tree is located, but Frank tells her no, because it is too dangerous, but she convinces him. Lily goes to eat something with Frank. But at that moment MacGregor arrives with the real Mr. Nile, and tells him that he managed to negotiate the expedition at only £50,000, while Frank charges him only $20,000. Lily realizes the scam and starts to reproach Frank. At that moment he notices the arrowhead she has as a necklace. Frank goes after her to continue negotiating, but at that moment a cute cat appears, scares everyone starting with Nile, who escapes. This kitten tried to attack MacGregor, but Frank saves him. The Rock, as he is super muscular, he fights the tiger and in the end defeats him. Everyone applauds him, so Miss Lily says, well, I think he is a capable man, and hires him for his trip. We are with Frank, who is arranging everything to start the trip, and we discover that the kitten is a kitten and is a friend of Frank, and the fight we just saw a moment ago was a show. But at that moment some subjects sent by Prince Joachim take Lily to take away the arrowhead she had stolen, so a chase begins. The Rock helps her and finally ends up reaching the boat, where the trip finally begins. But things get more interesting here, because the prince comes out of the water with his submarine and starts attacking them with a machine gun. Another chase starts down the river, but the Rock uses his skills and manages to evade a torpedo with his second boat and manages to entangle Joachim's submarine until they manage to escape. They continue on their journey. They see cursed pink dolphins and spend it quietly recording the beauties of the river until they reach a point where the river divides into two. Frank wants to go down the left side, while Lily on the right side, which is the shortest way. Frank wants to go the second way because it is safer, but Lily insists, so Frank agrees. Dusk comes and everyone is starving, so Frank kills a rat, but MacGregor is not going to eat that shit, so Frank throws him in the water and catches some piranhas. They eat them. They were delicious, and then they continue to get to know each other more as the night goes on. But at this point MacGregor goes to sleep and puts on his face cream, at which point Frank's jaguar appears and tries to attack him, so Frank stops him and Lily and realizes that the bar fight was a sham and goes to sleep. Meanwhile, Prince Joachim goes in search of the damned, whereas the Lope de Aguirre with his henchmen, he finds them petrified, cursed. Prince Joachim had taken water from the river as the curse was that if they moved away they would die. Lope de Aguirre reveals himself as a snake and Prince Joachim offers him to free the river so that the waters reach where they are. In exchange he tells him that they go to look for the arrowhead that Lily has, recover it and give it to him. The cursed Lope de Aguirre accepts. Joachim detonates the river causing the water to reach them, freeing them from his curse. Meanwhile the Rock along with the brothers continue their journey and reach a slope in the river, but the Rock with his skills manages to save them. They reach a safe place. Frank and McGregor go down to the jungle, and here we learn that McGregor was almost excluded from society because of his sexual preferences and because he did not want to marry any woman. So he now accompanies his sister Lily because she understood him and did not stay away from him. Meanwhile Lily is looking through Frank's things. She finds his maps and discovers that he was also looking for the moon tears. She tells him that he is hiding a lot of things from her, and he reveals that he was looking for the moon tears for a long time, that he looked for it in every island, in every part of the river, but he did not find it. So she tells him that he did not find it because he did not have the arrowhead that she has. But at that moment some guys from a tribe appear and put them to sleep. Frank speaks their language and tells Lily to give him the arrowhead. In exchange these natives will let her and her brother go, but she does not want to and rebels and starts to fight with them. But these natives do not fight and begin to mock, because all this is a show created by Frank. Lily and her brother beat Frank. She goes to a native to have them translate what the arrowhead says. Here the native translates the information on the arrow. She tells him that for the miracle petal tree to bloom it has to be under in the weeping moon, that it will happen in 2 days, and gives him a location on the map. Here Lily tells her brother that she will go alone without Frank, because he is a liar. But just at that moment Lope de Aguirre, cursed, starts to arrive with his friends. With many snakes he kills the members of the tribe and arrives with Lily and Frank. He tells them that after 400 years the arrowhead is his and he wants to try to kill them to get it, so they continue to fight against these monsters. Here one of the monsters takes the arrowhead from Lily and gives it to Aguirre, so he starts to escape, but Frank goes up and fights him. Aguirre gives him a deadly lunge, but Frank takes advantage to take the spearhead from him, and then Aguirre throws him falling into the void. But when he is falling he throws the arrowhead to Lily, who takes it and sees Frank fall down to the water, giving each other deadly blows, and then they use a canoe to escape. They fall into the river and the native tells Lily to get away from the river, so she does while Aguirre chases her and gets far enough away, and we see how the river takes Aguirre back, leaving Lily safe. And then the monsters, losing sight of Lily, send one of their bees with Prince Joachim to tell them their location. Meanwhile Lily and together with McGregor find Frank wounded. He tells them he is 400 years old and his real name is Francisco Lopez de Heredia, who was Lope de Aguirre's cartographer. Then as his brother broke his leg and is badly injured, Lily decides to leave him with the natives and continue on her way. Meanwhile the bee arrives with Prince Joachim and tells them Lily's location on the map, so he goes after them. We are with Frank and Lily. He tells her the true story. He tells her that a long time ago he worked for Aguirre and that they were like brothers, but unfortunately Aguirre's sister was very sick, she was going to die soon, so he along with his father came in search of the tree, but the jungle rejected him. Frank here says he would have done anything to find the tears and save Aguirre's daughter, and he tells Lily that he traced the Amazon, the whole map, while they were looking for the miracle tree. One by one they were dying, until they did too, but a tribe appeared that controlled the power of the tree, and with the petals they saved them all. They all revived. Aguirre was happy because he was closer to find the petal of the tree to save his daughter, but he got impatient and asked him to give the spearhead to the chief, but he said he was not worthy, so Aguirre mortally wounded him, and the leader of the tribe gave the arrow to his daughter to take care of her. So Frank at that time defended the chief's daughter to escape with her and take care of her. Then Lope de Aguirre considered him a traitor, but the chief was still alive, and in his last seconds of life he cursed them all so that they could not escape from the river, because if they did it in the jungle he would return them to him for all eternity. Eventually Aguirre found Frank and killed him again and again, but Frank got tired and set a trap for them. He made them fall into a cave where the river could not reach, so the jungle petrified them and turned them into the monsters they are now. Then Frank tells us that he founded the town and that he had a pretty lonely life while he watched his friends die, because he couldn't grow old too. He had many pets, Meanwhile, McGregor is escaping with one of the natives, but they are intercepted by Prince Joachim, so the native throws herself into the river and leaves, but McGregor has no choice and agrees to have tea. Prince Joachim forces him to reveal where his sister and Frank are, so McGregor reveals his whereabouts. Meanwhile, Lily and Frank get to the right place and have to enter the water, but Lily cannot swim. They reach an old building where Lily is trapped, so the rock has to pass air mouth to mouth, and in that while he was going to bring more air, the rock is attacked by piranhas. But they do nothing and Lily manages to press the lever and we see how a marine city emerges, the rock city where the tree would be. Frank tells her that he will use the moon tears to break her spell, but Lily tells him that she will die. He tells her that he is ready, but she does not want to. At that moment, Joachim's submarine also emerges and takes the arrowhead from Lily, because if not he was going to kill his brother. They get to where the tree is, but it is dry, and to revive it, Joachim asks for their help, so the rock offers, but Lily does not want to, because she will die. They get to a cave, where there were ancient inscriptions. Here Lily enters to help him and puts in the arrowhead, and we see how the tree begins to revive, an immense tree of petals, but Lily at that moment the limit shoots the rock so that it does not go for the petals and commits suicide. While she goes up with Joachim, she arrives with the last petal. Because the moon was hidden, Lily has the petal, but at that moment Joachim appears and forces her to give herself to him, but she does not, and then they fall. Here Aguirre arrives with his friends, the monsters, and stop Joachim. The prince offers them everything, but Aguirre tells him that the royalty is not to be trusted and kills him. But Prince Joachim was not dead, but he comes for Lily, but her brother's inner man comes out and kills him, while the rock tries to block the river, while Aguirre with his allies chase him, because they thought he had the petal, but Frank gave him the petal McGregor to give it to Lily, and we see the boat crash and the river being blocked, and at that moment the jungle starts petrifying everyone, and now F is officially the rock, literally. But at that moment he reaches the limit and puts a petal on it, but nothing happens. The thing is that in the end the rock leaves the solid state and returns to be Frank. He meets Lily and they hug and return to the city, and they are happy forever. Obviously there is also happy ending, I guess, but that we cannot show it here. Anyway, this was all. Be sure to be subscribed if you liked it, and if you want to see other stories. That's all from me. A kiss to everyone.